Welcome to Life L'Chaim. I'm your host, Lee Lazarson. On today's show, we'll be in studio with Rabbi Abraham Cooper from the Simon Wiesenthal Center. And first up, we'll talk with Gabi Rose about weight loss, right after these messages. Gabi Rose is from the Center for Medical Weight Loss with Gabi Rose. She's here today to talk about weight loss and her reasons why many Jewish people are overweight. She herself lost more than 130 pounds. Gabi, welcome to L'Chaim.
Thank you.
You have some very interesting thoughts on obesity. You yourself having lost 130 pounds. Obesity is an epidemic in the United States, and obviously that greatly affects the Jewish population as well.
Yes.
Tell us your thoughts as to how obesity affects the Jewish population.
Well, one thing that through my studies, I've noticed, number one, going back to the Holocaust, my mother being a Holocaust survivor and my father, my whole family is obese, and it's always been a struggle for me to understand why so many Jewish people are obese and overweight. And through my studies, I've found that, number one, through the trauma of living through concentration camps, having a lack of food, improper nourishment while you are young, not only does that cause post-traumatic stress, and then you always have a feeling like you're gathering food. And my mother went through the supermarket and would gather carts of food. If she went in to get milk, she'd come out with carts and carts of food. I used to say, what is the matter with you? Can't you just run in to get milk? And you don't understand. But aside from that, just having the fear of not having enough food, we also have the problem that while they were growing up with all this malnourishment and malnutrition, we're finding now they have a lot of hormonal imbalances and have a lot of stress in their body. And that's even carrying on to second and third generations, not even the person that survived. So that's a whole other issue for the Ashkenazi Jews that were from Europe, like we were.
So your feeling is that the PTSD that the Holocaust survivors experienced just from the trauma of going through the Holocaust, that they've imparted some of those eating habits or poor eating habits on their children and then so forth, children's children.
I mean, how many times can you sit at the table? And I could tell you countless times my mother would say, would you like more? And I say, no, thank you. Okay. And, here comes another heaping. Let alone that we were eating goulash with sour cream, schnitzel fried in breadcrumbs, flour, oil, French fries, latkes. And, there's a Jewish myth that says you get an extra soul on Shabbat. So you sit at the Shabbat table, you eat challah with raisins, add a couple of extra 100 calories onto it.
But it is good.
It's good, but why do we have to eat a whole loaf, right? Why can't we just eat a little bit? We're so good during the week. But because of this myth that we believe we get an extra soul at Shabbat, we're not watching the calories. We think that the calories are going to leave with that soul the following day. And that's not the case. But it's a real problem, and it's a real concern, because children are now being diagnosed with diabetes and other health-related issues that were never found in people before they were in their 40s and 50s.
So at the Center for Medical Weight Loss with Gabi Rose, how do you work with those individuals?
Oh, we have to, number one, we have to work with the adults. You need to retrain the way they think. You need to give them confidence. I have 4 children. All of them had health issues as I was going through my issues, but I was blind to a lot of their issues. And some of them were learning disorders, which have resolved themselves through proper nutrition. When I was doing a recent paper on the rise of obesity in this country, I came across something that was very alarming. Actually, they're saying that the Jewish population of children have a much higher a rise in obesity right now in the United States than the average American. And they believe that when they're learning the Torah or when they're being sent to these private Jewish schools, they're not only being taught all these secular things that they have to learn, but then they're sitting down and learning Torah. They're learning Hebrew, and they're not getting up. They're not moving. They're not exercising. Their time is spent sitting. There was a study that said many of the Jewish schools don't offer hot lunches. So their parents are preparing meals that are high in calorie, leftover meals. They don't know how to pack properly, and those kids are taking that to school with them and eating, which I believe that they should bring lunches from home and prepared from home, but we have to learn how to prepare meals for our kids.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of those tips that you can give parents out there?
Well, one thing that I do, number one, I love Jewish tradition. I mean, who doesn't love sufganiyot and latkes, but you have to, number one, just eat it in moderation. So during the holidays, if we eat sufganiyot, we only buy it fresh, handmade, homemade, and then we each share between the 6 of us. We will share 2, and we will cut a piece. If we prepare latkes, I make them now with sweet potatoes. I don't fry them. I bake them, and they're just as good. Mm-hmm. You can make them with zucchini. You can make them with alternative vegetables, not the heavy potatoes soaked in grease. There's no need for it. We already know the dangers of these foods. And I'm one to love tradition. I love tradition like the next person. But we have to kind of realize that our society is changing a little bit. We're not as active as we used to be. We're driving through. We're becoming lazy. And we have to accommodate our food and nutrition accordingly. Our lives are depending on it right now.
If someone wanted to find out more information regarding your experience and the Center for Medical Weight Loss with Gabi Rose, how would they go about finding you?
Well, we have a website, and it's cmwl.org. That's centermedicalweightloss.org. And they can Google Gabi Rose, Gabirose as well. And I would love to help anybody. I mean, I have family that lives in Israel. I have family that still lives in Europe, and they're all struggling with their obesity. My family that's here, I've managed to help them, my children, my loved ones. My husband lost 50 pounds. And I believe we can change, and the time is now before obesity becomes the #1 death in this country.
Gabi, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.